Like with other sports, when we start with archery, it really pays to learn good technique right away. So here are a few tips on shooting your very first arrows. Think of the archery form as involving your entire body. And we start with the feet actually. We place our feet about shoulder width, and we want to have our toes more or less on the same line with regard to the target. So there's like a line that runs through our toes at a 90-degree angle to the target. We move from our feet upward, and notice my position, my torso position is completely straight. So think of another line running down our neck, spine, belly button, all the way to the ground. And that line is vertical and straight as well. So if you notice yourself shifting your hip a little bit forward, or perhaps backward, then this is behavior you want to correct and get back to a straight line. Otherwise, you lose power and it starts being uncomfortable for you. So maintaining a straight and relaxed body, all we do now is turn our head and we're ready for the shot. When we lift our bow arm, notice that the shoulder is down. The typical beginner's mistake is that the shoulder is lifted a little bit, and here too we start losing power if that's what happens. So shoulder down, and in fact our entire bow arm aims to be quite relaxed throughout the shot. A key part of that is not to grip the bow too hard. We want to have our hand in a relaxed position as well. And in order to make that possible, what we want to do is, instead of holding it with all of our 5 fingers like this, we want to twist the hand a little bit, create this something like 10-degree angle in our knuckles, and then hold the bow with only about 2 fingers. One good way to do this is to fit our fingers, 1 or 2 fingers, inside our palm next to the bow like this, so they are kind of out of the game. Okay? What this allows us to do is to maintain a relaxed hand, and through that, a relaxed bow arm in general. When we lift the bow, at the very beginning, I suggest that you maintain a slight angle in the bow. Many people end up shooting with a straight bow, so that's what we want maybe later in our careers. But at the beginning, it's good to maintain a small angle because that makes it less likely for your arrow to actually come off the shelf. Having the arrow on the bow, we want then to focus on how we exactly grip the string. There are 2 ways to do that, but in either case, we do it with our 3 fingers, 3 middle fingers. We can place them either 3 under the arrow, which is often more convenient for the aiming activity when you are a beginner, or we want to place them 1 above and 2 below, which is called the Mediterranean grip. So I shoot like this, but both are perfectly acceptable. And in either case, we pull the string with the first joints of our 3 fingers. So first joints like this. Try to maintain a relaxed back of hand. Many people curl their hand like this when they pull the string, so it's more like this. We want this to be perfectly relaxed. Another thing to do, which is specific to longbow archery, is try not to actually squeeze the arrow itself very much. Because what tends to happen when you squeeze the arrow is that it often comes off its shelf. So this is something to be avoided. When your arrow comes off the shelf, most likely the reason is that you are squeezing it a little bit too tight. Turn to the pull. When we pull the string backward, notice that I'm pulling it all the way to my face. This is very important because keeping it somewhere mid-air is very hard to do consistently. We want to, in fact, pull the string all the way to our face and then sort of park it there. A good idea here is to recognize a place on your face, which is always there, where you can pull one of your fingers to. That's called an anchor point in archery. And for me, for example, it's a particular tooth where I draw my middle finger and park it behind that tooth. This is something you keep consistently in every one of your shots. And that's a basis for consistency in aiming. You want your anchor point, by the way, to be somewhere below your aiming eye. If it's too much on the side, you're going to have some aiming problems later. So my anchor point, with regard to my eye and the arrow, You can see here, they form one straight line. When we reach full draw, we want to place the tip of our arrow, which is typically the way people aim when they start learning longbow shooting. We want to place the tip of the arrow to our desired aiming spot. As you know, the aiming spot is not at the center, but tends to be at close range shooting, always below the center somewhere. So we place the tip of the arrow into that spot. What's important here is not to let go right away. We want, in fact, to park the arrow into that spot and then start increasing ever so slightly the tension in our back muscles. What this allows us to do is to perform a much more relaxed release action. Now, releasing the string is actually not really an activity. It's more like the finishing of an activity, the finishing of our holding activity. So think of it like that. And we were able to accomplish a much better finishing of the holding activity when we do so with a slight increase of tension. Notice, by the way, that I keep this elbow up, which allows me to really engage my back muscles much better than if my elbow was down like this. You notice immediately you have much less force when you maintain an elbow like this. So, reaching full draw, we want to place tip of our arrow into our aiming spot and keep it there. Aim for a few seconds and increase tension in our back muscles until at one point we just kind of let go. Notice that when we increase tension in our back muscles, what happens is that this hand kind of smoothly just moves backward, because that's the logical thing to happen when you release upon some back tension. Notice also that this hand is still not gripping the bow tightly. What I'm rather doing is I'm kind of catching the bow as inertia moves it forward. We've accomplished our first shot. When you can keep consistency in roughly these areas, believe me, you will progress very quickly in learning to shoot well, not only technique-wise, but also result-wise. So have a good time at the range and have fun.